Hi friends, Right Careers welcomes you to another brand new video for this week. This is Yes Sudarshan, your career coach. Now before we get on to this week's topic, the customary thing, in case you have subscribed to my channel, thank you so much, and in case you haven't, do click on the subscription button and also the bell button for instant notification. Now, moving on to this week's topic, we have already seen a topic sometime last year related to law. We saw a topic called careers in law, and I have given the link of that careers in law video beneath this video so that you can refer it in case you wish to. Now, this video is more or less going to be related to law, but in a slightly larger sense. Now, if you look at the pattern these days, we come across many students, and many students these days prefer to study law. That wasn't the case few years back, but these days students are showing good amount of interest in pursuing law, and that's reflected by the enrollments, the growing number of enrollments that we see in both government and private institutes. Now, private institutions, some very good institutions have come forwarded, and then they have started law colleges and offering cutting edge law programs for the last few years. Not only that, there is a huge splurge in terms of recruitment. More and more private companies are flocking to good campuses, good colleges, and then have started recruiting lawyers for themselves. So overall, if you ask me, the ecosystem of law has grown. Students showing more interest, private institutes and government institutions opening up, and also the companies coming forward and then recruiting. And therefore, law as a career is very, very exciting these days, if you ask me, as a student, because you have another good option, and it's definitely an evergreen option. Now, even though as common man or as someone who understands India, how it functions, etc., civil law and criminal law is something that we usually relate with law, right? Normally, whenever you talk about law, you relate law with civil law or with criminal law, but that's not the case anymore, and that's exactly what the topic is going to be. The topic that we have taken for this week is different types of specializations available in law. So if you wish to pursue law, there are various specializations. It's not only about civil or criminal. There are various other specializations, and this video tries to address what are those specializations and talk about those specializations in detail. Now, before we get on to what are those specializations, I would also like to advise class 11, 12 students that law usually is a 5-year integrated program, right? That's how the law functions in India. Law academia functions in India. It's either studied with BA with LLB, or BSc with LLB, or BBA with LLB. Now, at undergraduate level, you don't get to specialize. You study everything, right? You only specialize the laws when you pursue your masters, which is LLM. When after your graduation, when you pursue masters, that is when you get to choose these specializations. Now, if you ask me why I'm doing this now, that's because you, as a student, you need to know what are those specializations, and that could actually trigger a thought to pursue law. You never know. So that's the whole idea of doing this video. Now, let us get on to what are the specializations that are there in law. The first specialization, and a very common specialization, is civil law. As the name itself suggests, civil or civilian. So we are civilians, the human beings, the common man as a civilian. So when you pursue this specialization, you usually deal with civilians and common man, and usually you deal with rights related to private individuals. That's what you study in civil law. These lawyers work on issues like divorce or child custody, or anything to do with property ownership, disagreements of contract, personal damages, etc., etc. So this is what the civil lawyers who specialize in civil lawyers do. Now, generally, civil law itself is divided into 4 subcategories: contract law, we all know; torts law; property law; and then family law. So broadly, civil law has 4 subspecializations, and this is what you will be dealing with. Now, if you are someone who has the eye for details, eye for detailing, you possess a very good networking skills, or you have very good interpersonal relationship skill, then you can definitely specialize in civil law, and it's definitely a evergreen specialization. Moving on to the second specialization, once again a common, a very, very popular specialization. Not only popular, but also the oldest specialization that we have is the criminal law. As the name itself suggests, when you study criminal law, you don't deal with criminals, you deal with people who are accused as criminals, right? So you represent someone who is accused as criminals, and you go and fight or rather defend the case for your client in the court. Typically, we have seen in movies, right? Ganam Kortar, Avargale, all those things are a part of, if you are a part of the criminal law. If you pursue criminal law, you will definitely have to go to court and you argue or you defend your client in front of the magistrate or the judge. Now, usually criminal law is very well paid, and as a student, you usually don't straight away go to the court and then start arguing. You actually work as an apprenticeship with a senior lawyer and then come up the ranks. This is also something which you have seen in movies. So usually the junior works with senior and then grows to the ladder. That's how this functions. Now, if you possess a very strong skills such as eye to solve the problem, work with police departments, and if you're investigative in as a character that you have, then you can definitely consider choosing criminal law as a specialization. So that's the second type of specialization that you have. That moving on to the third type of specialization, which is once again, most sought after specialization, I would say these days, is corporate law. As the name itself suggests, you deal anything and everything to do with corporate. Students do prefer a lot, when it comes to choosing this specialization, because they tend to work for corporate. Any company, you can work for IT company, you can work for non-IT company, you can work for manufacturing, banks, so on and so forth. Every organization will have in-house lawyers. And who are those? Those are lawyers who specialize in corporate law. So what do they do? They advise their client. Their client means the companies. They advise the companies on various aspects, anything to do with contract, signing of contract, mergers and acquisitions, and handling the day-to-day affairs of legalities related to companies, something that a corporate lawyer specializes. Now, if you have a very, very strong skill to read and also to listen, you can definitely choose this, because this requires reading of contracts from pages to pages and understanding of those contracts and things like this. So therefore, if you possess those skills, and also one great advantage about corporate law is you work for a company, which means you earn a fixed monthly salary, unlike other professions, other specializations, where you usually get commission on case-to-case basis. Whereas in this specialization, you tend to have a fixed monetary income. And if you have that, you can definitely specialize in corporate law. The fourth kind of specialization, which is worth mentioning, is cyber law. Now, this is relatively a new age specialization that has come up, but we see a lot of spike in interest among students. As the name itself suggests, it is as law, or it is a specialization that deals with any illegal or criminal activities that happens out of internet or cyber world, right? We all know that there is cyber police. Similarly, we have cyber lawyers who usually work on any illegal activities that arises out of internet. Some examples of cyber crime includes hacking someone's computer, unethical hacking, or cyber terrorism is also an example of cyber law. Spreading false rumors in internet space, it's also a crime, and those are handled by cyber lawyers, cyber laws professionals. So that's the fourth specialization that we have. Moving on to the next specialization, the fifth specialization is taxation law. Again, a very serious portfolio, I would say. Usually in taxation law, the students are provided with in-depth knowledge of tax related rules and regulations. They can also work with corporates. They also advise the client. They can be independent. They advise their client on various laws that includes income tax laws, real estate laws, franchisee. For example, if you want to open a franchise, there is something called contract, and that's done by taxation professionals, taxation lawyers, so on and so forth. Any lawyer specializing in tax law helps their client in auditing and accounting purposes also. So that's the fifth kind of specialization. The next specialization in law is international laws. Once again, a popular stream of specialization. This specialization aims to, we all know that we live in this globalized economy, right? The globalization has taken over the world by storm. Now, every company these days start to, export or import beyond domestic markets. And that is when international lawyers play a key role. They work on anything to do with international trade practices. Now, business organizations who wish to expand their operations will definitely look international lawyers as they used to hire their services, I should say. So that's the sixth kind of specialization. You also have some other specializations which we will see quickly and wrap it up. You have intellectual property lawyers who play a very, very significant role in terms of patents and trademarks and so on and so forth. That's a specialization that you can choose. Then you have banking lawyers who specialize exclusively for banks. Then you have environmental law. These days you have environmental law specialists. And then you have maritime law, anything to do with shipping, merchant navy, etc. You also specialize in maritime law. You have energy law, you have human rights law, you have mergers and acquisition law, and then you also have child and women protection law. So it goes on and on and on. There are numerous specializations that you can pursue, and that's what is making law a very good aspiring course for many students we see. And there are having said that, for now, if you are a 12th standard student, the idea is to fundamentally be very, very strong in all the law practices and then specialize in LLM. So that's all we have for this week. And in case you have any doubts on some other specialization or specific to any of the specialization, do ping us. All the credentials are mentioned below this video. And until next Monday with another brand new video, see you all. Stay safe. Have a great week. Thank you.